So over the past year, Southern California's real estate rates for commercial slash industrial real estate from about 100,000 square feet and above has seen a balloon of about 200 to 400%. Now today we're going to discuss a new round of pricing for 2023. Leave any questions or comments on the comments below. If you want to get in touch with me direct, my email will be in the description below. So because the things that happened in 2021 involving COVID and supply chain issues, 2022 and now 2023 has been epic for warehouse lease rates. They have gone up 300 to 400%. Now, what does that look like? So I have a buddy that's down the street and he was leasing his warehouse that was at 300,000 square feet for about $180,000 a month. Now, when he received his new rates for the start of 2023, his rates were going to be at $500,000 a month. So think about it, for $180,000 a month, 300,000 square feet, to $500,000 a month in 2023. We received our next round of increases. Those are going to bring us to $187,000 a month next year in 2024. So a buddy of mine that was renting his 300,000 square feet for 180, it's going to cost us 100,000 square feet, $187,000 a month in 2024. So basically, it was all a ripple effect from COVID, and the effects of COVID, what happened. So if anybody remembers correctly, the world pretty much shut down, and what happened was that sent a ripple effect throughout the entire supply chain, the entire economy, and the entire world, pretty much. You had manufacturers that canceled a bunch of manufacturing and a bunch of orders that they had submitted. We had a bunch of manufacturers shut down. So for a period of time, nothing was being made. And that also, if you remember last year's port disaster, it was all because of that ripple effect. We had a normal activity of containers coming in, and then we had a short that took labor on the decline as well because of COVID, and then we had an influx of containers that came in because folks caught up. There was back orders and all that good stuff. So once everything came to Long Beach, it was just, we had 90 boats out there just waiting at a given time. It got all the way up to like 300 boats out there. And then what happened with COVID was it accelerated the e-commerce industry. So you had a lot of folks go into the e-commerce now. So on top of the normal volume, you had increased e-commerce volume. So once all that stuff got to Long Beach, it was a disaster. We even had a pallet shortage. They wouldn't have enough pallets to put things on. It was ridiculous, if anybody remembers. So fast forward till 2022, we finally caught up. There's no more warehouse space for everything that came in. And then because of all the delays, because of all the shortages in labor, now you have a bunch of full warehouses. You still have stuff that needs to come into the warehouses, but we had a bunch of full warehouses, and you had, as an effect for all the time that it took to get all those goods into warehouses, big box retailers started canceling POs. So you had a lot of folks bringing in inventory in the beginning of 2022, and second quarter 2022, folks started canceling POs. Folks like Costco, folks like Walmart and Bed Bath & Beyond, and these other big box, TJ Maxx, you name it, all these big box retailers just started canceling POs. So since that craze, back in 2022, your landlords, so let me go back. You had a lot of space filled in the Inland Empire and Southern California. People were going berserk looking for space. Warehouses started increasing their rents for space, but then also started going out and looking for additional space. And once landlords figured that out, space was already at a premium, and then landlords figured, okay, let's raise our rates. And those guys just raised it immediately to like 400%. They went from 50 cents a square foot to $1.50, $2, and then eventually some people hit 275. I think that it topped out about 275 a square foot. So all in all, it went up about 400%. But since then, it's corrected at about 200 to 250%. So meaning anybody that was at 50 cents before, they'll be at $1.50 plus in 2022. Now 2023, we are hoping that we can see the market correct a little bit more. But when it comes to commercial leases, like we're in, we have to give a year notice whether we're going to stay or not. Now, if we say that we're not going to stay a year out, I can't say 3 months left, oh, I want to stay, because this year is when the landlord's going to look for another tenant and they'll start negotiating. It takes about 6 months to negotiate a lease. Now, the bad thing is, if we sign on for $2.50 per se a square foot, and in 2 years it just takes a major crash down to 50 cents a square foot, there's going to be a lot of defaults out there. There's going to be a lot of chaos in that new economy. So this is a unicorn that we're in. No one knows what the hell's going on. Supposedly anything north of 100,000 square feet is going to keep seeing an increase, and anything sub 100,000 square feet, 50, 60,000 square feet, they're going to see a major crash. So people might go to the start leasing smaller buildings now. Who knows? And to make things a little bit more complicated, 3PLs are still short on labor. So we're still having major labor challenges. Since COVID, we staff we're at 50% staff. So that means at any given time, if I have a need for 20 folks, I only have 10. So with that challenge is having to get labor into the building. Now, there were positions that were about 18 bucks an hour, 19 bucks an hour as a forklift operator, and now we're having to pay $22 to $23 an hour to these forklift operators. And that's good for them short term, because the rates are starting to come down a little bit now that there's more people coming into the workforce. Same with office staff. CSRs were getting paid anywhere from 16 to 18 bucks an hour. We're starting them at 22 bucks an hour now, anywhere from 20 to 22. At one point, your general labor that was paid minimum wage jumped all the way up to 20 bucks an hour. That's how hard it was to get labor in the building. So with that said, it's good in the short term for these guys that are making a little bit more money, but the reason why they're making more money is because of the labor market. It's stressed. So as soon as that levels out and the playing field levels out, salaries are starting to, some people might lose their jobs, some people might get demoted, but salaries and wages are going to come back down. Now, for you guys that are in the workforce, start chasing value. Start becoming valuable. That way, the market is not that much of a variable when it comes to what you're supposed to be getting paid. So in summary, all staff along the entire spectrum has had wage increases. Now, you can only imagine that these wage increases are going to be passed along to the customer, and then the customer is going to pass them along to the consumer. So that's when you're going to start seeing things go up, increase. That's going to look like inflation. It's going to aid inflation. So be on the lookout. So stay tuned to the channel. We're going to be giving you guys our synopsis of rates that you can expect in 2024. So we're doing studies now on what the new market rates are, and what the new rents are, and what that's going to cost per pallet. But what I can tell you clue-wise, it's looking like $30 to $50 per pallet, guys. $30 to $50 per pallet. It's looking like in 2024. That's a disaster, because those costs are going to be transferred straight to the customer from the 3PL, and then straight to you, the consumer, or you, the customer, and your customer's the consumer from you. Stay tuned. So in these turbulent times, thank God, ocean freight has gone back down. So at one point, to get a container from China to the US to California, you were looking at 20 up to 30. I heard $32,000 was the most expensive container. Yesterday I was on the phone with an old customer of mine that we share common interests with. He's back down to 1,800 bucks a trailer. I've heard of folks out here in San Bernardino still paying about $5,000. It also depends on what you import and where you're going inland. But at least we know that that portion of the supply chain has corrected. Drayage At one point, we were looking at $4,000 per container. Towards the end of 2022, I was paying about $2,500 to $3,000 per container. We are back down to about $2,000 per container after everything is said and done. It's about $1,200, but then you have a bunch of accessorials. Now you can add a CTF, clean truck fee, that the ports have. That's aside from the TMF, the traffic mitigation fee, or the pier pass. They got a clean truck fee. So you're looking at about $2,000 now per container to get it back over here. Now drayage is probably going to keep going down because drayage carriers are right now hungry as hell. At one point, you couldn't get them on the phone. You couldn't get them to even quote you. Now I'm receiving about 3 inquiries a day of drayage carriers that are slow and that need some work. But we have enough work here for the house, so we're not farming anything out. So for you guys doing some projects, now's the time to get those projects in because the containers are cheaper and drayage is going to get a lot cheaper. So bring those projects in. So in conclusion, transportation has settled, labor is kind of settling, but your real estate is not. It's still kind of bumpy. We'll still expect some bumps along the way, but it should be settling 24, 25-ish. So the major thing to expect are the increase in storage rates. Right now, you should be looking at about 22 to 26 bucks a pallet. There's some guys out there doing 20 bucks a pallet. I still have a few customers that are gonna be at 18 because we can stack them really high. But let's say 20 to about 26 bucks a pallet, that's what you should be expecting. And for the cheap guys, I see them about 18, 19 bucks a pallet. But always remember, you get what you pay for. Beware with those guys. And for those consumers and those customers out there, consumers prepare for a extra hike in prices on pretty much everything. Labor charges, you should be seeing 12 to 14 bucks a pallet now on labor. Picking has kind of stayed the same at $1. Some people at $1.25. Your labels, they're already at 50 cents. They're double that what they were. They're probably going to be creeping up soon by about 65 cents. Pallets, surprisingly, have been coming down a little bit. So they were at 20 bucks, now they're at 18. Some guys are at 15, some guys are at 16. It just depends on how you buy, what you buy. Block pallets, what we've been buying, has been coming down pretty well. And your minimums, that's going to be huge though, coming into with these crazy rates. Warehouses are going to start trying to secure more storage, a bigger footprint, because you folks, you come in with 100 pallets, but then you got 50 SKUs that takes up quadruple the amount of space that it should. So expect your 3PLs to start securing more space and a more accurate footprint, and then having less of a flue space. So right now we're at about 100 pallets, and it's probably going to come down to 50. You can't go past 50 pallets of your minimum. You can also expect for your warehouses to start to tolerate less your ebb and flow. So they're going to start keeping you more accountable. If you're on the hook for 100 pallets, for 200 pallets, they're going to be expecting those 100, 200 pallets. Now, if you're paying a minimum, it's not going to be an issue. But if you're not paying a minimum and your warehouse is expecting a certain amount of containers, they're not saving space for you. There's no, as you can see, there's no cross-dock space. There's a little bit of space that we can afford to keep open, but for the most part, you're not seeing too much additional space unless it's being paid for. So whatever space is not being paid for, it's going to get filled up. So if you're on the hook for, if your minimum is 200 pallets, don't try to bring in 250, 300 pallets because they're not going to fit. I've had to tell a few customers, hey, you got to go off-site with that. But we are in the market to expand. You got to have a lot better quantities of what you're going to be storing, and expect less flexibility as far as storage when it comes with your 3PL relationship. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Please remember to share, like, and subscribe if you dig the content. If you want to know anything else, throw it in the comments below. Any questions, comments, complaints, throw them in the comments below. And until next time, we shall see you. Mike out.